Hello, Ellen. This is Richard Wiseman, and we're going to be talking about different things related to careers, interviews, and the likes of that. So, have you had a recent experience getting a job, or any experiences come to mind regarding an interview that you had with a possible employer?
Yes, absolutely. I was applying for a very simple labor job, and I just wanted to get the experience for the interview. I showed up, and then she handed me a math test that I wasn't prepared for. And it was something to do with dividing inches into fractions. It was some kind of obscure math that I've built a shed before, and I never had to use that kind of math. And including in this labor job, it had to deal with just like basically building curtains for livestock, and which I thought had absolutely nothing to do with the math test. I think it was just a standard math test that maybe she got from the website, and that kind of upset me. And we talked it through a little bit. She said she'd give me another math test, but it was basically just another version of it. So it wasn't the best interview experience I had, and I ended up just leaving. I thought I was being tricked. I thought it was a waste of time. Have you ever experienced something like that?
My interviews have been fairly decent overall. The ones I've done for when I first started out with the fast food industry with a popular chain. That was a 1, 2, 3 type of interview. I just handed the manager my resume, a customized cover sheet, and I was just prepared to answer questions. So, if possible, which is kind of hard to do nowadays, but if possible, when you're going around getting applications and dropping them off, if you could ask to talk to the hiring manager, that would be a beneficial thing to do for yourself, as you will get that face-to-face time with the person that's going to possibly interview you, and that first impression you make with them can be everlasting.
I mean, that's one method you could do. It's kind of time consuming. I like to apply online unless it's a specific location, maybe like a giant manufacturer, and it's difficult to find out. Most of the time, I just apply online, and if I can't, then I'll go to the place. And usually, like in my experience when I went there, they offered a link to apply for jobs, but that link wasn't available on their website. It was through some other temp agency, and usually those manufacturing jobs, maybe Harley Davidson, John Deere, even Home Depot. Sometimes you have to go there and try to figure things out on the spot rather than just going to the website. So your approach is pretty good.
Yeah, the thing about that though is a lot of applications are no longer available in store, and if you ask, do you have an application, they'll say yes, go to our corporate website or the likings of that.
And some of the times the website's not even updated.
Yeah, and then that kind of gives you a feel for how serious the company really is.
And it's almost like they're trying to keep qualified employees out instead of trying to find the best people to work for the right positions.
Yeah, definitely. So the once you do secure an interview, what do you usually do to prepare yourself that, let's say, morning of?
The morning of,
Yeah, the day of the interview. How do you prepare yourself?
I usually won't eat. I'll have coffee. I like to have an empty stomach, so just avoid any kind of like nausea or whatever. Because when I wake up in the morning, it's difficult.
You
And
might
then
be, someone
yes,
might be
show up
nervous.
early.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, talking about that, it's if I was told in one of my classes I took in college, if at an interview they offer you a drink or something, don't take it. Essentially, you might start concentrating on not spilling it on yourself. If you do spill it on yourself, you'll look like a fool, and you can kiss that job goodbye and stuff like that. So that's always interesting to hear a perspective like that.
Another interview I went through. It was a sub making place, and they wanted you to memorize all the sandwiches in almost overnight, which I thought it was kind of unlikely that I would be able to do that, but that more comes into play when looking at the job you want to work for and doing research ahead of time and knowing what to expect. If you already know the menu right off the bat, you have a way better chance of getting hired.
Yeah. Um. So we have here. There's some questions that you probably should pose to yourself when getting ready for an interview, and preparation is key for having a successful interview. Uh, Possible employers are going to want to know if you're qualified for the job and if you can be molded to fit into their culture of the company or to
Or
represent their brand.
or you may even be qualified, but you might be putting the wrong kind of keywords or buzzwords into your resume, and maybe your resume needs to be rewritten in the first place. It could be a timing issue most of the times. Maybe the interviewer is looking for somebody else. They want you to work, odd hours. If you could take a different approach, I mean, apply for a job that maybe actually is more difficult to get and just kind of be persistent in pursuing that.
Yeah, the interesting about that is like when you come along applications and stuff like that, they'll ask what's your desired wage, and I would have to say that you shouldn't undersell yourself when it comes to that. Don't just put down minimum wage, but then again, you don't want to put a pie in the sky figure either, and they'll just completely overlook your application. And then talking about a resume, putting certain buzzwords, you want to have describing words that are descriptive and that are clearly positive words that enhance how you appear on paper.
And your social media account, try to keep it private. Public, they're already gonna search your social media account as soon as they read your resume if you are qualified for the job. So just trying to keep, I don't know, things professional online, even though it can be difficult. If you got online maybe when you were 16 and now you're in your 20s, there's a lot of steps. I mean, just being judged by that one individual moment isn't it isn't valuable whatsoever, but some employees look at that and they'll just judge you just by your Facebook account, just by where you think is a place where you can say things openly with your friends, and it's become almost your business account.
Yeah, and then if you're going to do the social media, you should before you post it, you should think, how would I want my potential future manager to think of this? Or you can think of, if you have a good relationship with your grandparents, would my grandparents approve of this post? Stuff like that, and then that will keep you more conscious with keeping a more professional profile. I also know in today's market, some employers expect their employees to have a LinkedIn profile. And if you don't know what that is, that's essentially a professional social networking website similar to Facebook, where you list your credentials, your diplomas, your degrees, your interests, your charities, your causes, and essentially gives an outline or a resume of your abilities and qualifications for potential people to network with you.
And one of the questions they're going to ask you is, what is your weakness? Now, when I went to the job interview, I wasn't even prepared for it. It was a pizza making place. And
I bet I know what you're talking about.
yeah, and I know exactly what I said. I said I don't have any weaknesses, which isn't true, but I know I have a lot of weaknesses that I could work on. Probably dividing fractions. Maybe I should brush up on that. Combine it with some inches. I'll get out a ruler ahead of time so I know that the pizza is 20 inches, 24 inches.
Yeah, that question they ask, what are your weaknesses? They want you to self-analyze and stuff like that. So if you were going to answer that, you're going to want to answer honestly, and don't pick anything that a weakness that would affect negatively upon the job that you're are uh, going for.
I mean,
Such as
two.
you could say that your weakness is sometimes I feel pressured by my coworkers to do things in a different way or something like that. So if you can try and make it somewhat positive, that will be helpful. But I've also read in regards to this matter that the H&R person that might be hiring you or doing the interviewing process, if you just give one of those bogus things like, oh, my weakness is when I start something, I have to finish it very quickly. Like something like that. A bogus answer like that might be more of a put off than actually just honestly answering the question.
On the flip side of that, these people who are interviewing you, the human resources, they have read the up-to-date interview books, and they have these very professional, very creative questions, and questions that may even come out of left field. You have no idea. I mean, now, what are your weaknesses has probably become a more common question. But back in the day, I never even heard about that before.
Yeah, definitely. So if you can go online and search the latest techniques and for your interviewing process, your hiring manager can do the same things, and if not better.
Absolutely. It's all about how you say it. If I was to get proposed that question again, maybe I could have done it differently. I'd probably say math, anything above algebra 2, and I always had difficulty with math. I had to take summer courses, but on the flip side of that, I was always very good with science, decent with web design, decent with stuff. As long as they can show me the application on which the math is used for, then I can do it. Just if they have it laid out just in problems, doing math for almost no reason, but the fact that hey, I remember these certain formulas. That's kind of, you know,
Yeah, yeah. Practical application, it sounds like, is something that you find useful.
I find it very important. And what if the interviewer doesn't even do their homework when they're interviewing, or if they're new at interviewing and they just want to gain experience? Maybe the interviewer is not even looking to hire anybody; they just want to get the experience. You can't even figure that out ahead of time. You're just trying to go get a job, trying to probably pay for your car insurance. Job interviews they can be complicated. They could be two steps. One time I applied to work not for Best Buy, but some other company like that. It was kind of like Geek Squad, and there was actually I interviewed with three different people.
Oh, all
I
right.
had three different interviews before I even got the job, and I made it through all that. If it was for some reason like the simplicity in the interviews themselves, if I go to one of those that are very simplistic, like a job, I kind of get bored right away. But if it's a complex and there's multiple steps to that interview, that's where I feel that I succeeded. Maybe there's people out there who also feel that same way. Maybe they don't even really care to begin with.
Yeah. Um, it's really good to bring that perspective up like that to think about. So,
I mean, one
with
of the
your
questions I had is, what was the last thing you disagreed with about the company you worked for? And okay, so I'm working at this tech company, and the person comes in. They obviously had a problem with their hard drive. I put their information in the computer, and I just searched to go get them a new hard drive. Instead, while I was searching, the manager comes up and he basically charges, I don't know, $1,300 on her credit card for a whole new computer setup, software, a lot of things she didn't even need to begin with. All she needs is about $80 hard drive, and he charges her. I know they're in business to make money, but that's not ethically. I have another situation that actually worked out. Somebody came to me and they said, "What's a really good computer, like a laptop?" I said Asus, but we didn't have any to the store. And then a couple weeks later, I seen him in the store again, and he said he got the last Asus laptop, and he was very happy about it. And he said he just like coming into the place I worked. because I worked there and I was very informative about the products. I knew what worked well, what didn't work well. I knew the software forwards and back. If they had any questions, they could always call me before even calling. Like, they made us sell warranties. I didn't feel that that was very ethical. I'd rather have them bring the computer in, let us look at it for free, and then actually develop a relationship with these customers instead
Yeah.
of just forcing them to buy stuff they didn't need.
It sounds like you were very informative for that person and were a good overall person besides just being a useful asset as an employee. So along those lines, it'll come to a point where the manager or the hiring manager will ask you, "Do you have any questions for us?" And this usually ends up towards the end of the interview process. So having prepared some questions in advance will definitely be beneficial for you. Also, when you go to an interview, besides having any relevant documentation, if you are someone that might forget certain details, if you bring a little notepad and take down notes, it'll show that hiring manager that you're engaging in the process and that you take your work and career seriously.
Absolutely, I totally agree. I always carried, even when I worked a fast food job, I always carried a notebook with me, a little tiny notepad. Even if I had ideas outside of the job, looking for different jobs, I just jot it down. If somebody would say something informative or there was a new way to do something faster, more efficient, then I'd write it down. I'd remember it. I'd get back from work and I'd go over it, and it's very helpful to have a notepad handy, a pen handy. Always bring a pen to the interview. That's You're always going to be filling something out, writing something down. Maybe we'll get back for another interview. It shows the interviewer that you're prepared and ready for the job.
Yeah, most definitely. And along those lines, when you show up to an interview, uh, like I said in other videos, you definitely want to dress for success and appear to be someone that will be able to fit into the climate or culture of that company that you're applying for. So like that office supply or electronic place or the things that you were talking about, you would want to wear maybe khakis and a polo or something like that to your interview. If you're going to an office job or something a little more higher key, you might want to wear a dress shirt and tie. And if you're a female, wear appropriate length dresses or you can also wear the business type gear that's now worn.
And I know there's a lot of people out there who have gotten tattoos, piercings, and
Yeah,
I don't know where that's acceptable in a business environment.
maybe at Zoomies or skateboarding shop, but
Tattoo parlor maybe.
yeah, the when I was in my career development course, I asked the instructor, well, how about people that have those ear gauges, the ones, the big
Yeah,
holes
yeah.
in the ear, and they said, well, if you can, wear clear ones or something to make it less distracting. If you can make yourself not appear to be abnormal, then that might help you secure a job.
But they can't not hire you based on the way you look, though, or your age, or any discriminatory factors.
Yeah, there's ways to skate around that, but I know this one person that got a tattoo,
Of
and
a
it's
butterfly,
what was that?
the gentleman at a butterfly working at the restaurant with a Fiero driver, or is this a different story?
This might be a different story.
Okay.
There's this guy. He has a tattoo, and it's not gang related, but it's drug related. And yeah, America is a free country and all, but the hiring manager is going to look at that. Unless that's a culture they're trying to promote in their company, they might look at you as too rebellious or possible troublemaker, they can make assumptions. Like you said, they can't do anything discriminatory against you, but that doesn't mean they can't judge you.
It's kind of messed up because they are judging you. They already judged you based on the fact they got the tattoo, and self-expression is very important. Everybody should have their own unique ways. Tattoos, piercings, they're all, they make people, I don't know, they just make people more interesting, more diverse to look at. But for some jobs, it's just not appropriate, and it is discriminatory because it's difficult. Every time you got to go to a job, you got to cover up your tattoo or take out a piercing. It just doesn't. More than likely, you'll have a better time talking to somebody with tattoos and piercings than you'll have a better time talking to somebody who's wearing khakis and a polo shirt.
Yeah.
You'll have a way better conversation.
Yeah. The flow will be different.
And you'll seem like they're more honest and they're more to the point because it's already they showed people that they want to express themselves.
Yeah, and then if you have someone that's willing to dedicate something they believe in and put it basically permanently on their body, that says something about the individual too.
It says they're committed to the ideas they make, regardless of the consequences.
Yeah. So back to that story about the guy who had that tattoo.
And yes, if you have a sleeve full of tattoos on your arm, you're gonna end up working in a box factory.
Oh, yeah.
More than likely.
Yeah, yeah. So.
I mean, not Amazon because they already replaced most of their employees with robots, but.
Yeah. Talking about that, though, technology replacing workers. Have you seen the picture of the Kiscos that McDonald's are implementing to replace the order takers?
Are you talking about where the customer goes up and just orders what they want, like right off the screen instead of talking to somebody?
And then swipe the card and everything, and then they just go up to the window and pick up, or the desk and pick up their food?
Yeah, I've seen that. That's just eliminating, basically, it's not like McDonald's is a job, or any fast food restaurant you can name, Burger King, Wendy's, whichever one it is. It's very hot there. It's very stressful. There's close quarters. Sometimes the management is just very intense.
Are we talking about fast food now? Because
yes, absolutely, we're talking about fast food.
Yeah.
The management can be very intense. Even use profanity. Assistant managers, if they ask you to do something and you don't do it, they might take you into their little tiny office with the safe in it and all the cameras and stuff, and they'll have a short discussion with you. It can be very intense, and I mean, working at one of those jobs more than a year, hopefully, if you do it, just do it to get the money and try to find something better to do. I know it brings in money consistently while you're working there, but it's not a labor of love. It's not what we were brought up to believe. Our parents don't want us working at fast food. They want us to explore. They want us to find new ideas. They want us to invent stuff. They had higher aspirations for us, doctors, lawyers, even, mechanics, some job they actually loved going to do and working for. But for a first job, for the work experience, it's a decent experience. You just kind of have to set your own limitations ahead of time. And, Rick, I got a question for you. What is the most money that you have ever made in a single week working at a fast food restaurant?
Oh, at most, maybe three bills at most.
Wow, I made about $250, and I had to work. I had to work on Christmas Eve. I had to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I had to work about 8 hours.
Wow.
It was very, very busy.
And if I wasn't mistaken, that was at like not your home location for the fast food, but
yeah, it
was at this hamburger making factory essentially.
Yeah, essentially it was. It was a hamburger making factory.
Yeah, I had to work one of the most hectic times to work at a fast food restaurant, specifically the one that I worked at, was for Halloween night, because you have all the kids hungry, and then you have all the parents taking their kids to the fast food, and of course, management's going to understaff that location to maximize profits, and that just means you're going to have to pick up the slack and the extra overload. So, yeah, and you don't get time and a half for Halloween. That's not a nationally recognized holiday, unfortunately.
I did work Halloween too. It's oddly enough, it's one of my favorite holidays, and a lot of people like to request it off, and I requested it off too late, I guess. If I could skip, I'd rather work basically, I mean, Christmas for me, because I don't have any kids, and we usually have the whole family get together on a later date when people are off work. If I could skip Halloween and Black Friday, I'd be set. I'd work every other holiday. July 4th,
Memorial,
yeah.
Veterans.
I probably wouldn't work like Mother's Day or Father's Day. None of those. I mean, I'd like to have that off too. But besides that, I'll work weekends full time.
So, I have a question for you to get your opinion on. When it says open availability, do you usually put in your open anytime? Because that might maybe make you
You
appear
have
that
to,
you're
though.
desperate.
You have to have your availability open just completely for, I don't know, maybe the first month and then change it, or maybe the first 3 months and then change it. But they can completely overutilize that against you. It can make you come in at, oh man, maybe 4 o'clock in the morning when you're just, when the day you worked before, they could do really weird stuff. They could make you work basically, 2 to 10 o'clock p.m., and then have you come in at 4 o'clock in the morning, and then have the audacity to ask you to work the night shift. And you have to do it, because nobody else wants to do it, and if you show, I don't know, I guess determination, drink enough energy drinks or coffee, you could probably get through a couple 5-hour energy shots, and you'll make money. But absolutely the availability. I mean, there might be other people in that different demographic that have to take kids. Maybe they're going to school. Got to limit their hours. But
Yeah.
most of the time, if the job is requesting you to work, you should work. Especially if you're in a financial situation that dictates that you need the money in the first place.
Yeah. So yeah, the almighty dollar does run the economy. That's for certain. And business practices in the 21st century will do anything to get the upper edge against their competitors, if that means undercutting expenses by cents on the dollar.
And I got a question for you. In
Yeah.
your last job, Rick, the last job you just had, what is one thing that you wish you had accomplished?
Oh, what would I wish I would have accomplished? Um, well, I wish I would have accomplished getting to to the stance where they were giving me additional responsibilities of training people. That shows that the company is investing time in me, and also that they also entrust me with the entrust me with teaching fellow coworkers. It also shows that they would value me as an asset. But unfortunately, that job in the manufacturing industry, they cut too many corners, and it was unbearable working conditions, and along those lines, that reaching one of those targeted goals of mine didn't really pan out.
I recently read an article where the the fast food jobs and the basic manufacturing jobs, the shipping and handling jobs, they only pay $8 to train each employee. $8 out of the company's pocket to train the employee, because usually they have another employee train while they're working, so they try to keep the cost as low as possible. But I think if they invested more money into those, they'd have better employees that actually have skills. I mean, why is the job available in the first place if it's not going to teach you to have the skills, especially if it's your first job where your skills and your knowledge and your experience is already limited, and they're just going to give you about $8 worth of training, give you a little manual, tell you, not what to do, give you a schedule sheet, tell you to come in, and almost not how you, not how to tell you to do your job in the first place.
Yeah. So you really have to realize that when you're working for a company, the company comes first, and then the employees, and then the company's main objective isn't their employees; it's the staff, customers.
Absolutely, it's the profit. It comes down to the profit margins. If profit margins don't fit, that's usually the first thing to go, is the first people they hire.
Yeah. And if a job's constantly hiring, that means they have high turnover, and that means you won't really have that good of job security. And it also is a good indicator that the working conditions at that job are not going to be the best.
So how would you define your success with interviews?
How would you define success? Well, um,
If
if they mention on their own accord that they're going to give a call back with a determination if you're going to receive employment, that's a positive indicator. If you ask the question when they ask you to have questions asked, and you ask when can I expect to receive a call back, and if you get a good feel from the response, then that's also a positive experience you can have with interviews. Um, you can those are some successes that you can experience with an interview, and that actually just brought up an interesting a question that you can ask interviewer when they allot you time to ask them questions. If you ask the person, well, what are some things people struggled with the position that I'm currently hiring, seeking employment for? And when you ask a question like that, if the hiring manager is quick to respond, and that'll open up dialogue with them, and then you can express skills that are relevant that you can contribute to the better help that position. If the hiring manager really doesn't know what to say with that, or try just dodging the question, that might just show you how the structure of the company works, and that the hiring manager might not necessarily know the qualifications for the job that you're even applying for. So it really depends on the quality of the company.
Absolutely, the quality of the company, the people are the most important thing as far as success goes. If you surround yourself with people that are motivated and doing the job and helping each other out, it could, most of the time, it's a good place to work.
Yeah.
But if it's not a good place to work, if you do feel that you're being abused, I mean, what one thing that happened to you, just a couple of weeks ago, is you worked very hard. You bought a new cell phone, and would you like to tell that story?
I think that's a little personal, but essentially, I worked at a very shady company, and property ended up missing, and I tried reporting it to the authority there that my property was stolen, and they kind of just blew me off. Essentially, the matter did get resolved, and I guess I'm satisfied with the results with that. It's just a shame that you start out at a new job, and then you have negative things that hinder your willpower to continue contributing to the company.
I totally agree. Professionalism is very important. Um, I recently, I got a personal story to tell. Um, I recently applied to work at a job, and they accused me of something I didn't do. And there was no way to prove I didn't do it, even though I was filing complaints against another employee that was working there that was doing it. And we both ended up losing our jobs because they couldn't prove exactly what was going on in the first place. And so
Yes.
when they're hiring unethical people with sketchy, questionable backgrounds, it can make the environment a lot more difficult, and then you lose trustworthy, you lose honesty, you lose integrity. There's a lot of things that the interviewer themselves, the person giving you the job, maybe they made a mistake in the first place.
Yeah.
Maybe there was certain people that they shouldn't have hired. They should have did screening process. Maybe this podcast can give them a lot more feedback versus what they're finding out. Because a lot of people, when you go to job interviews, you don't really want to disclose information, which I think is one of the most important. The more information, the more open and honest you appear to be, the higher the success rate for actually getting the job and getting through that interview. If you can answer the questions right off the bat, and there's no problems whatsoever. And on top of it, if you like the employees that already work there, that will absolutely help you get a new job.
Yeah. So, yeah, this has been pretty interesting talking about the interviewing and stuff like that. I would expect to write up some more information in regards to resumes, interviews, and the job market up on collegeriches.com in the near future. But yeah, I just need to bring up another topic about what type of personal goals someone should include with their aspirations to better position themselves.
Apply in quantity. When I'm applying for a job, I'm usually filling out at least 50 applications.
Okay.
It may take 2 days. It doesn't take a long time. It's a lot of copy and paste. But if you're applying for like a general store, like a dollar store, sometimes they'll have even questions. They'll ask you about 100 questions, like a psychological evaluation.
Yeah, I noticed that actually. I was applying online for this mattress place, and they were asking all these personal questions. The mattress place was part of one of these larger retailers, and they were doing a psychological type thing and asking you to rate this and that and how you would feel about this or that, and if you were presented with this situation, how would you react most likely. And
Do you think the test is effective, or do you think it just tests the applyee, if you will, if they are good at psychological tests, or psychological tests even, do they show any value in themselves, is what I'm trying to say, because they're really long, they take a lot of time, and it's almost not even worth it to get the mattress job.
Exactly. I don't know if those tests have high reliability, but what I think it does show to the potential employer is that you're willing to spend enough of your time to fill out the 100+ question survey, and you're willing to mess around with their application for a while, and you're willing to conform to their platform.
Because you want to work with mattresses. It's a good job. I mean,
Yes.
probably one of the questions is, do you sleep? Do you sleep on a bed?
Yeah.
I mean, it must be a very, I don't know. There's a lot of, I recently watched, a video. I mean, Penn and Teller do a great one with this guy. He had insomnia, and the salespeople were, basically, they were saying this bed will give you everything you need because it's a $5,000 bed. All it is a bed at the end of the day. It's got springs in it, or it's got air, or it's memory foam, or something like that. But you have to work really hard, and that really comes into the question of, is how you're going to sell a mattress ethical in the first place? Are you really helping people with their sleep, or are you promising things that aren't true?
Just to get the sale.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was one when I worked at the office place. It was difficult because some customers would like to come in and they'd like to be lied to, and they'd like the warranty, and they'd like just to get in, to get out, and be like this. All the products, there was a lot of research on them. They were very good products to begin with. They were low cost. A lot of research went into them. But at the same time, I didn't want to sell something that the customer didn't need, and that hurt my sales to begin with, and that made me look like a worse employee. But a worse employee on the face of, the company, but in reality, I was being a good employee to the customers that were coming in. I was an employee of the customers. I wasn't really an employee of that business. I was, younger at the time, and I never had a sales job before, and I didn't know that almost, I mean, I went to another location to get some sales training. It was almost like you were trying to bully the customers into buying something.
Yeah. Talking about those pre-application or applications that require you to answer the psychological testing, there was this one question asking you basically how long did you work at your previous job, and then the next question that followed suit was how long do you think people usually stay at a job, and then the third question that was in line was how long do you plan to work for us, like how devoted are you to establishing a career with us?
For
So
our next podcast, we should get some of those psychological questions, because I'd really like to look over those and see if they can be answered in a correct way, or even if they're even worth bothering with those types of jobs to begin with.
yeah,
That'd be good to look over.
yeah, that's a really good topic. Well, I think we got plenty worth of information in this little snippet here. So I think we're just gonna conclude for now with this video. And yeah, I appreciate your time, Alan.
Yeah, no problem.
All right, till next time.
Bye.